You're watching Rehatch Designs by Tina Williams, where I remake and update unwanted and discarded items into beautiful home decor in many different styles and in many different ways to resell in my booths or to use in my own home. So sit back and enjoy the video, and if you like it, please give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll know when I upload future videos. Thanks for watching. Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well today. We have a really fun video. I love dark academia, the Moody look. To me, I don't know, I think I've always loved it. But it's very, very popular now. And we are going to be doing several projects with that. I have a frame here that I thrifted. I got a whole box of frames for $12, but it's a plastic frame. It does have glass that I just took out. We are going to paint it. I do paint these plastic frames all the time, and I sell them in my booths, and they sell extremely well. But I do think they look kind of cheapy the way they are, so we're going to do a few things. I tape off the back just so that I don't get any paint on that velvet. I will clean that velvet up later, but for right now, I just put some tape on the back so that I don't get any paint on there. So we are going to be using cast iron by Fusion, and this has a primer and a top coat in it. So I'm not going to really do anything to my frame other than to clean it up. I usually clean everything with alcohol first and get any kind of grease or grime or anything off of it. And I am going to be using their Fresco, which is basically like a salt wash. And it works really well. I'm very impressed with it. I haven't ever used it before, and I really like it. And I do add some sort of texture always to my plastic frames like this. It helps usually. I usually use salt wash, but I do like this Fresco. I think it works really well. And we're going to be using it on several projects today. So I'm going to actually make more than I need for just this frame. But I go ahead and mix that with my paint. I don't really measure it. I just kind of eyeball it. And I'm actually wanting not like a heavy texture, but some texture. And the reason I like that is because what happens later is I do add wax to this project when I'm done. And what that does is it gives the wax something to grab onto, and it helps with the illusion that this is kind of either a plaster or a wood type frame and not the plastic. So I go over this basically really only one time. I go over it and then I just kind of do any touch up because obviously this is kind of a grayish black color. I love this color. I use it all the time. Now I use this on so many flips with a wax finish, and they sell instantly. I think it's just very popular. It's not really black. It's not really gray. It's kind of in between. So anyway, I go ahead and I do that and I let it dry completely to move on to the next step. But I definitely go back in and touch it up, make sure the sides are done, make sure I get in all the detail, because I'm not really wanting any of that plastic to show through. I want to make sure I have good adhesion. And now what I'm doing, guys, is I have a mixture. I showed you there was some brown wax, and I have a mixture of a brown and black wax together. I used to do like a brown wax and then add a black wax, and I finally thought, well, no, wait, what if I mix them mix them together? I do this all the time on things that I paint this cast iron, and I do that after, of course, I put a salt wash or some sort of a texture on it, just because I think it it grabs on, like I said, it grabs on to the texture and it gives it some depth, and it really makes it look a lot more high end than that plastic frame that we started out with. So do this to any plastic frame and I promise you it looks way better in the end. So you can see it has kind of a brownish black look to it. And I go over the whole thing, and of course it's not going to be shiny like this when it dries. It'll be a matte finish. And I wipe off the extra, you know, and of course if you have detail, it'll set in the detail. There's a little bit of detail on this frame, but not much, and that's part of the reason why we're going through this process. And now what I'm doing is I am taking Gray Grunge by Dixie Belle. I love this. I use it all the time on a lot of different projects. And I'm using this over that because I'm wanting even more depth and texture. And so a lot of it's going to come off because I already have wax on there. And again, the Fusion paint has a sealer on it, so I didn't have to worry about sealing it before using the black. If you don't have a sealer on your paint, you do want to probably seal it before you put wax so it doesn't change the color of your paint too much. So anyway, we go over that, and it does add even more depth to this frame. And I do this on a lot of the frames that I flip, and I just think it gives a lot of a depth to it. And now I'm taking my black and brown and going over it a little bit because I didn't want it to look too gray. So now I have a piece of cardboard that I cut out. I'm using the piece of glass to make sure it got it the right size. I just use Eileen's tacky glue. I like a thick glue for this, and I cover the whole back of it. And I have a canvas print from Temu. Just go to Temu and look up canvas prints. They have all kinds if you're interested. They do have different prints on Amazon, but I haven't seen the canvas, so you may be able to get that there. So after I put that on, I do make sure it adheres well, and I just put it back in the glass and clean it, and there is our project number 1, and I think it turned out beautifully. This has a very academia look with a fall vibe to it. Obviously, you could put, I think, I was going to use a picture of an owl, or I had just a plain book stack. But anyway, I wanted it to have kind of a fall vibe. So now we're on to project number 2. And this is a very detailed candlestick. You'll see the rest of it in a minute. I get these all the time. They were very popular at one time. You can find these in thrift stores all the time, and it's that usually painted that bright gold. Do not pass these up if you are a flipper, because I get these and I do this to them and I sell them instantly. So I'm going to go over the whole thing with the exact same mixture that I used on the frame. It will stick to it extremely well, and I only really have to do one coat. And the Fusion, again, is an all-in-one paint, so I just have to go over it, let it dry, basically. I'm making sure I get in all those little crevices and cracks, because I'm not really wanting the gold to show through. I want to make sure it's completely covered, and I'm just making sure I stipple it on there to get it in there. I do want some texture on this, again, for different reasons. For this, I want the coverage, but also I also want this to look a little bit more like maybe cement, or you know, something like that, not just like a plaster. So now what I'm doing is I'm going over this with Dixie Belle white wax, and I am covering it very well. Again, if your paint does not have a top coat, you may want to go ahead and put a top coat on before you put wax. Otherwise, you'll end up with kind of a gray color. And I'm wanting the black, or the cast iron, and the white. I want the contrast of those. And if I did not have a top coat built in, I would put a top coat on first. Otherwise, it kind of mixes together and you get kind of a grungy gray cement look, and you may want that look, but that's not what I wanted. So after I cover the whole thing, I just take a rag and I wipe back a good portion of that white wax. I want a lot of the black to show through. So this does take a minute because it has so much detail in this candlestick. But look how much different it looks and how much more updated it looks. Now I've done these before where I will do the cast iron on the bottom and then I will use a milk paint on top, and that is a really fun look too because it has all that wonderful crackle with it. But we're just going to use the wax on it this time. And I'm getting in there and getting a lot of that white out. I leave a lot of it in, all of the detail. But if you can get your hands on these, which you probably can, because I'm telling you, I see them all the time in thrift stores. I pick them up. I think people are catching on to this now, but anyway, I'm going over this with my black and brown wax mix after I get done because I want to add more black back to it. And that's it, guys. That's all I do to it. I put a candle that I had thrifted on there. I tied a little fall bow on it just to give it a fall vibe, but obviously you could use this year round. It's not only for fall, but I wanted it to look a little fall for our little vignette and for the season. But I love these. I have done a lot of things in my home with this same process to update them. Now this is project number 3, and we're going to do basically the same thing to these bookends that I did with the candlestick. We're going to go over it with that same mixture. And I thrifted these. I don't remember how much. I got these at my favorite thrift store when they had 75% off. And I think I paid around $2 for these. I think the candlestick I paid, it was $7, so I got 75% off of that. I'm not going to do the math, but you know, it was very cheap. And these types of things always sell in my booth extremely well. Partly, I think, because I can price them well because I bought well. They say you make the money on the buy, and that is very, very true. If you buy it low, you can sell it low and still make a big profit. So anyway, I'm going to go over this. Again, it's just going to take one coat, and it's complete coverage. These are very quick flips, guys, and they're super easy. It may seem like there's a lot of steps to them, but it's very, very quick because we're only doing one coat. The paint dries extremely fast. And then the wax, I'm not even waiting for the wax to dry. I'm just, going to go ahead and do that same process again. And it's very, very easy. Again, these bookends are very detailed. So the wax is going to really show off that detail. And making them a black with the white is going to really update them, make it look a lot different. I think for a while there we were taking all of these things and painting them white, and definitely you can do that, but I think we're gravitating more toward the dark. It's becoming very popular now, so definitely if you're a flipper, think about going in that direction because I know that they sell extremely well for me. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and go over this with the white wax. And of course, making sure that I get in all that detail, and make sure you have a good, nice wax brush that has a point in it like mine does, so that you can get in all that detail. And then, of course, you want to make sure you have good rags that don't have any lint, that don't shed, that you can wipe this off because it does take a little elbow grease to wipe these off and get as much of that white off as you can because we really are wanting this to be dark looking when we get done. So we just do a lot of rubbing and get as much of that white off as we can and leave leave it in the crevices and all the detail. So after I do all that, I go ahead and do the same thing. I go back in and I add a bit more of my black and brown with that, just because I want to make sure that it ends up having a lot more black than what you see now. And it does also accent those details as well, because you're kind of, I wouldn't say going in there with the details, you're just kind of feathering over it with the wax. And of course you could use a paint. I could basically go back in with my cast iron and do that. But anyway, that's how they look when they're done, and I think they turned out fantastic. And I would probably sell these for about $22. My candlestick, about the same, $18 to $22. My frame with the picture for about $35. So anyway, this is project number 4. And this one, I picked up this tin for about 50 cents because this is during the 75% off again. And so I'm going to paint this. It is not a silver or silver plate. It's just a tin tray. And I'm going to give this 2 coats of the cast iron by Fusion. And again, I don't have to use a primer or a top coat. And I will do the front and I will do the back. And pretty much it takes very little time to dry. I give it about 30 minutes in between coats, if that. And I think we have good adhesion when we get done. So now I'm going on and doing my second coat. And I'm not doing a very thick coat. I'm doing a pretty thin coat because I want to make sure that each coat dries. So now what we're doing is we're using the Etiquettes by IOD. This is their foil transfer pack. This thing is loaded with stuff. If you want to do a multitude of projects, this is a great one to get. And what I'm going to be doing is I pick out that big piece there that I'm going to go ahead and cut around. The way that they did this is that they have like a lot of lettering all around it. There's like no wasted space at all. And I am not only going to cut out the big piece, but I'm going to cut out the lettering and all the wording around it, all that typography. And we're going to put that down, and then we're going to also cut out some additional typography later and add that to the tray. Now, this does have some curves in it, so it's a little bit more challenging, but honestly, it was not hard at all. These transfer extremely easy. I think the one thing that a lot of people are doing is they're pressing too hard on them. And it's totally not necessary at all. They transfer extremely well. If you press too hard, you'll get some of the gold that you see in the background. But I actually think that looks good. I think it makes it look like it's kind of like chippy gold gilding. So I go over the whole thing and try and make sure I get everything. And as I said, you can see the curviness of this. But that's okay. You just kind of push down with your fingers and then go in there and just kind of make sure you get everything. You pull it up. If you see something that didn't transfer, then you put it back down and you kind of just keep going. And that's how you do it, just to pull it up, put it down. Really, it's just like any other transfer, to be honest with you. It's not really any different. Now, these are very shiny gold when you get done. I love that because when you see what I do with it later, you will see why. I think it gives you an option of leaving them super shiny gold or doing other things. I mean, if they weren't shiny, I don't know that you could make them that shiny. So you'll see what we do with this, and then I just keep working on it till I get everything. And actually, the little London part didn't transfer that well, and I go back in and I just take that transfer sheet and line it up and put it back on there. So now what I'm doing is I'm flipping back through the whole thing, and I've used parts of it before. I'm picking out pieces that have just that random typography on there, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to basically kind of puzzle it together on my tray, and I'm going to just put it in different spots all over, just to add that to it. And it's really a good use of the extra pieces of transfer, and I think the look turns out really, really fun. So after I get all of those on, I am using the gold paint by Fusion, and this stuff is amazing. I don't think you can really tell until it's dry what it's going to look like. And I am going right up to the edge. There's like a little indentation there, and I'm just taking an artist brush. And I just bought these off of Amazon, and I think they're great for the money. This is great for stuff like this. This is way easier to do than what you might think. You just need to load up your brush, well, and don't be afraid, because worst case scenario, you go back in with your cast iron or whatever your other color is, and then touch up, which I do in a couple spots. But I actually go over this and I do 2 coats of it. But this stuff is so, I don't know, vibrant and gold when you get done. And this is just 1 coat. And I go over the whole thing with 2 coats. And basically just taking my time. I actually love painting like this. It's very relaxing. So I go over that with 2 coats with the gold metallic. And you can really, the second coat, you can really see how bright and beautiful it is. It goes extremely well with the gold on the transfers. And now I'm using black walnut, and this is by Paint Couture. It's a glaze, but I'm mixing it with Extreme Guard Flat from Paint Couture. It dries extremely flat, and I want just a little bit of that black walnut in there. It's a very dark glaze, and as you can see, I'm going over the whole thing with that. You do need to seal in your transfers when you're done, and this will definitely seal them in. But it's also tinted, so it's going to make them a little darker. It's going to make that gold look a little darker. So it's going to look more vintage. And it's definitely going to dry very flat, which is what we want, because this is very shiny gold. And we're going to give it a flat finish and a little more antique finish. And of course, we go over the back. See how flat that is? Now there's one spot there in the bottom that I kind of feel like we need some more lettering. So I go and I take a piece. I just go find a random piece, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and then put some more of that Extreme Guard with the walnut, just to make it match the rest of it. And I think this thing looks amazing just the way it is. But, I'm not done yet. So now I'm taking my black and brown mix of wax, and I'm going over the whole tray with it, not because it needs to be sealed, but just because I want to make this look a little bit more vintage and a little bit darker. So I'm going to go over the whole thing with it and then wipe it down. And I didn't show you, but I did burnish all the transfers by taking the plastic. I used on this particular transfer, I used the back sheet on the waxy side, on the slippery side, to burnish it, but I do that. Look how beautiful that looks. It looks so different than that really shiny bright gold that we saw before. And now I'm taking my IOD black permanent ink, and I'm going over the whole thing with the edges, just on the edges, to kind of make it look like the black is peeking through from underneath because it's old and it's been around for a long time. And I think this thing looks absolutely amazing considering it was just a 50-cent tray that I thrifted. So anyway, I love this tray. I absolutely love it oh gosh. And I will probably sell this in my booth for anywhere from $15 to $18, and that's quite the profit. So anyway, I love it. And the dark academia look does have like a lot of brass and gold and all of those things that, we love. It has a lot of that in there, but it has a very, kind of an older vibe to it. So this definitely falls in with that. So now we're on to project number 5, and I hope you guys are hanging with me because I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you are. So this is just a basket, and I thrifted this, and it was already painted this bright gold. I did not paint it gold. So we are going to go ahead and take some again of that black and brown mixture. And you can take a basket and paint it gold, and you start off where I am. I don't even think I paid $1 for this. So I'm going to go ahead and take this basket, and I'm going to just take that wax and go over the whole thing. I don't think I would want to do anything but spray a basket, this gold. But anyway, it's a bright gold. I'm sure somebody probably used it for Christmas. I don't know. It may have had something Christmas in it, and I don't remember that. But so after I do that, I just kind of wipe it all off. And so I am just going to take some Spanish moss, and I'm going to put this in the bottom. You could definitely put some floral foam or something in there so you don't have to use as much. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of shove that all in there. This is not a fancy flip at all, but I want to show you that it doesn't take much to do this. I bought that little box of all those little pumpkins and different things at Hobby Lobby when it was 40% off. And if you watched my last video, I definitely purchased some things from Hobby Lobby at their 40% off fall sale. And of course, I get my wholesale discount. If you are a retailer out there, you definitely need to get your tax, whatever that certificate is, because I mean, here it's 8%. So then I bought this, that thing. Oh, they smell amazing. That's one thing too, is when you go into Hobby Lobby now, it smells so good. Anyway, that was $19.99. It was this huge thing of all these wonderful smelling pine cones and different things, and I'm actually going to tuck a few of those in here with this because I wanted to bring out some of that orange and red and that type of thing. Again, this is our dark academia with a fall twist, so we're definitely going to add some fall to this. Of course, you could add anything in here, for whatever season that you're doing, but I just thought I'd show you how easy it is to do something like this and do a little vignette. I will probably sell this in my booth for about $22 to $24, somewhere in there. But anyway, I just take little bits in there just to add to this little vignette. They had all these little natural things in there. I think that looks good with these. If you wanted to hot glue them in there, you can. I usually don't do that. And one of the reasons that I add a lot of florals and greenery and things like that to my booth is even if they don't sell, I think it really makes your booth look wonderful. And of course, in your home, having that, on a tray or something just looks amazing. So look how pretty that looks. So we definitely toned down that gold, made it match the tray, and I think it turned out wonderful. So now project number 6, we are going to be using some molds, and we're using invitation only, conservatory labels, and frames. And this is the first frames mold. I don't think it's called frames 1, but it's just called frames. And I do have all of these IOD items on my website, rehatchdesigns.com. And I do offer free shipping for purchases over $50 or flat rate shipping of $8 if it's under $50. And you don't pay tax if you don't live in the Texas area. It's some sort of law that I don't understand. But anyway, I have just mixed my casting resin, and it's 50-50, 50 part A, 50 part B. You mix it up, then you pour it, and then this stuff is ready to use within 10 minutes. And I am using Fabricast, and I will link that in the description box if you're interested. It does actually cure faster than Amazing casting resin, which is kind of good and bad. So I did find that if I do not stir it as much, it does not cure as fast or as hard. So, but then, that's always an iffy proposition. Amazing casting resin does give you a little bit more flexibility, but this is quite a bit cheaper. So, I guess you have to pick your poison there. So anyway, this is gonna go nice, and I'm putting some more in the antlers because getting those little antlers on those is kind of hard. I end up not using any of those castings for this project in the invitation only, but I do use the invitation only again later, you'll see. So I am going to take out this label from the labels mold, and I'm going to go ahead and put some super glue on there, and it has a spray that you can put on there to make it work immediately. Otherwise it only takes like 15 seconds, so but I'm very impatient. And then I'm going to do it, I do it on one book, and in case you're wondering, we're going to be doing a book stack. And I'm going to do this other label on the other one. But I do end up cutting part of that label just because I want it to be able to lay flat. I don't do both sides. I don't care if the other side's sticking up a little, but I do want it to be able to lay flat. So I go ahead and do that and decide which is going to be the top up part and what's not. And I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on there. I probably put way more glue than I needed to, but hey. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there and make sure it's on there nice and tight. And of course you could do this same thing in clay, and actually it might even work out better because you can bend it. But I'm doing a video, so I'm trying to get it done now. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and paint my first book, and I am using the color Bayberry by Fusion. Oh my gosh, I love this color. And I already showed it to my husband and told him his office is going to be painted this. I'm going to do the dark academia thing in his office. I think, oh yeah, this is the color. I think if you want to paint your walls, you know, that dark, well, a lot of people are doing black, but I think this would be the color that you would want to paint your walls. And then maybe the second color that I'm going to show you. But anyway, this is definitely, they definitely use a lot of green. And this is the color, I think. So, yeah. Maybe even a little darker. But I think this would be great. I think this would be great furniture color, actually. Yep. So, I take out the frame from the frames mold and I paint it. And actually, I could have done it later. But, the project kind of went in a different direction than I originally thought it was going to. So anyway, I do paint it and you know, no big deal. So I do go, whenever I am doing book stacks, I do the inside of that front cover. If the color is going to show and look weird, and that was kind of like a bright blue. So I do go ahead and paint that if I'm going to sell them. And I sell book stacks, guys. Oh, gosh. I never thought they would sell, but they do. Anyway, so I am taking hot glue, and I am going to make a mold with hot glue. And the reason I'm doing that is because I realized that none of those, well, guys, in this invitation only fit inside that frame. And that was the whole point of doing that. And yes, I could have cut them, but I thought, no, you know what? I'll save them for another project, and then I will go ahead and do that. So I went ahead and filled that frame with hot glue, and I'm letting it dry. And my hot glue is very, very hot, and you do need a hot glue that is hot, not the colder, cooler glue to do that. So now what I'm doing is I'm painting my second book for my book stack. And I am using the color Willow Bank. And oh, let me tell you, this is another popular color. It's a very beautiful, dark, deep blue. It's not really a navy blue. It's kind of, I don't really know how to explain it. It's got like a little bit of a teal in it, but yet it's dark. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous color. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So anyway, I'm painting this book that color, and it was already black. So I'm actually not going to paint the inside of this because we're going to be doing some things to it to where that black will just blend in. So I won't do the inside on this and save me a step. So now I'm pulling out my little glue. It's a cat. I think I did the cat one, because I thought it fit the best inside that mold. That's the only reason I picked the cat. And honest, guys, if you're doing the academia thing, or even the Moody, just the Moody, yeah, this invitation only, you want that. You want it. Because there are so many things and I actually have another project that I did, but I couldn't, the video was already so long. So stay tuned for that. You'll see it. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and glue down my frame after I trimmed my little hot glue casting. And it does work, guys. It does work really well. But again, you have to have glue that's, hot. It can't be like the cool hot glue. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down and let that dry. Again, you could use a different type of glue, but I just am in a hurry because I'm doing a video. And so I go ahead and put that down, and I'm going to go ahead and glue my little cat down, my little cat man person. And get that down there pretty quick. Because I didn't want to wait for anything to dry. So that's why I'm using this glue. So again, we're going to go ahead and use our bayberry. And I am going to go ahead and I am going to mix up some more of that fresco with this. And I'm doing that because I want to go in on all of the castings and kind of make sure I fill in that gap. And I'm wanting to add some texture to this paint because I am going to put a wax over this again, and I love how it grabs, the texture grabs that wax. So anyway, we're going to mix that up. And I made more than I need because we have one more project after this. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to do that. And you know, guys, I don't always show you on my, previews and my thumbnails everything that I do because I want there to be some surprises in there. And sometimes I don't show you any. And then, I like to be surprised and, not see everything in the beginning. And, so anyway, and that's why I kind of don't show you what we're going to do. I think the thumbnail hints at it, but, anyway, after all of that dries and I put that on there, I am taking my Grunge Gray by Dixie Belle. See, I told you I use it all the time. I'm going to have to get some more. And I'm going over this. You could definitely use a white on that, but I wanted this to have a very old vintage look to it. And I don't know, I thought I use this Grunge Gray for that look all the time. It works extremely well. So I'm going to go over this and, of course, wipe back a lot of it. And again, because the Fusion paint has a top coat in it, it's not really going to change the color of my paint, but it's going to grab on to any of those high spots and low spots. And, it's going to give it a kind of accent those a little bit. So anyway, I go over the whole thing. And I'm going to go ahead and add my other brown black wax that I have. I mean, you could use just black or just brown. Definitely. Oh, by the way, I take that gray grunge and I do the pages. I know it looks terrible, but if you've ever done a book stack and you get stuff on the side, okay, not only does this go with the book, because, if it's not an old book, it doesn't have pages like that. But I go over this with my dark wax or gray grunge wax or brown wax or whatever I'm using. And I go over the whole thing with that, and then I'll show you I do a little bit more. So anyway, I go over that, and now I'm going to take my black, it's probably more black than brown. But anyway, I go over all of that. And it's two different brands. I don't even remember what they are. I just mixed up a bunch of it, and I use it. And I think I actually put even a little clear wax in there with it, so it was very loose. And I'm going to go over this whole thing with that so it goes in the detail. It looks even grungier and old and been around for a while. And now you can really start to see all the detail in there in the frame and everything. And of course, I'm going to do it on my label that I put on there. I love that label. And it goes, of course, around the end. And of course, you're going to have a little extra when you wipe it off. And what that's going to do is that's going to get on your book. And you're going to get a little of the black in there with the gray. And then, of course, when you don't, you just add a little extra to it so it all kind of goes together. And I rub all that in. Beautiful. And, of course, I could leave it there, but no. Now we're going to take some Dixie Belle bronze gilding wax, and I'm going to just take that on my finger. And let me tell you, this invitation only, these guys are so detailed. Oh, yeah. You go over those. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So we're using the bronze because we want this old, definitely vintage, antique look to it. I'll tell you, this book stack will probably sell within days. I sell these all the time. I'll probably sell this one for about $24, $25. Maybe more. I don't know. We'll see. because I like it. I might keep it. Anyway, I really, really love that whole. I love Dark Academia Moody. I really, really do. It's totally my vibe now. So, of course, I'm going over that beautifully detailed label. And now, sorry for my big old head in there, guys. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over the edges of the book. Just kind of not perfectly, because I want this to look like it's been worn off, been around for a while, and go over all the edges. And of course, my hands are such a mess, as they always are. And I do get wax where I don't need to. If you do get wax somewhere you don't need to, you just take clear wax and it erases it. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually taking some of that bronze gilding wax and I put it on my brush. And I'm going over the pages, over the gray grunge. And what it does is it blends in with the gray. And it makes it look like it's just old gilded pages. So now what we're doing is we're going to go work with our other book stack. And I did not add any texture to that. I decided to leave it the way it is because we're going to go ahead and add some of these transfers. And I wanted to make sure that they would stick well. And again, this is the etiquettes. And I do have that on my website. I have it on my Etsy also, and I will list that as well. But I do not offer the free shipping on my Etsy. And you do have to pay tax, and it's just cheaper on my website, guys. So that's, if it's cheaper for me, I make it cheaper for you. That's just how it works. But if you feel more comfortable buying on Etsy, I do have it on Etsy as well. So anyway, I pick out my little piece that I want to use, and I take out the surrounding verbiage as well, because again, we're going to use some of that. And of course, I just transfer that on. It doesn't take all that much to do it, and it's beautiful when you put it on. But it is a very, very bright gold, and if you're going for a vintage look, you're going to have to do something. But like I said, I like the idea that they allow you to alter it after, because I don't know how you would make it shiny, right? But it's easy to dull it down. So anyway, again, I go and cut out a bunch of little pieces of the typography there. And that piece I'm cutting out around, we're going to use that later. So I go ahead and use this all over. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I kind of fill in most of the front cover. Of course, there's some blank void. And the way that they do these, there's not full words or full sentences or anything. So it's very easy to cut these pieces apart and add, because, it looks like it goes together. I think it's good that you have a focal point like we do, but, I just try and fill in most of the gaps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the spine. And as I told you, see that piece there? I kind of cut it in half, and then I size it. And of course, the little tail end of it's not going to make it, but that's okay. It looks so cool when we get done, guys. For putting it, even if you just put it on your spine of your book stack, right? I always make the front of my book stacks look good. And then I just cut out like a little word. I don't even think it's a whole word. It's part of a word. And I put that on the label. So again, we're going to go ahead and take that black walnut mix, and I'm going to put it in there. And I use these little containers from the dollar store, because I usually make too much and I don't want to waste it, and I end up using this stuff all the time. I do tend to make my own glazes a lot, and I'm doing it with this because that Extreme Guard flat is very, very flat, And it will take the shine away from the gold, and it will also give it a very vintage look because it's a very dark glaze. But I don't want to use it as thick as it is. And I also find too that I end up wiping away a lot of the glaze when I use it straight. So this way I actually am saving product, I think. And basically putting on, really just what I need. So I go ahead and put that on the spine as well. And of course I do the back so it all matches. And it looks shiny here, but it dries completely flat. And that takes away the shine, and it'll do that in any transfer that you have. And if you have shiny transfers and you want them to not look shiny, see how flat that looks? And then of course I take the gold. This is the Dixie Belle gold, not the bronze, the gold. Because this gold matches very well with these transfers. And I'm going to go all the way around it. I think it finishes it off. It really does. And of course I go over the casting because, it has all that detail on it. And I go around the edge of the book. And guess what? I do the same thing on the pages. And here they are, guys. I love how these turned out. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's how they look on the side. I just took some black velvet ribbon. And that is my book stack. So now we have project number 7. Okay, this is the last one, guys. I hope you're still here with me, and if you are, thank you. But anyway, this is a little tin piece that I thrifted, and it was $2 and 75% off. So what is that, 50 cents? And it has a lot of detail. It's not very big, but I'm telling you, when they say smalls pay the rent, no kidding. They do. So I have a lot of smalls in here. And I will tell you that, and I consider small things under $20, and maybe in some of my booths that are a little higher dollar, even under under 25. So anyway, I am painting this whole thing with that same mixture of the bayberry and that fresco because I want some texture on there. And as you can see, it's not that textured. And that's what I like about it. That's why I don't like using baking soda. I think it doesn't give you the option of not having, it's like too textured sometimes. So now what I'm doing is I am taking the bronze gilding wax by Dixie Belle, and I am going over all of the little detail. This thing had a lot of little detail for 50 cents. And I'm going over the whole thing. And I don't even think I showed you this. I went over the whole thing before I'm doing this with the that mixture of the black walnut and the flat, that extreme guard flat, and I kind of went over it and then wiped it off just so that it would get in all those crevices. And then I decided to go over the whole thing with the gilding wax. Make sure I go over that bottom. See, it has a lot of detail in it. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am just going to take, this is just some foam, and actually it's used. I used it on something else, but I'm going to use it on this. And I don't glue anything in a lot of my floral things. I don't glue things down because I want the person to have the option of changing it out. And I am going to put some fall things in here, and everything that I have here I bought from either Walmart or the dollar store. And I honestly don't think I even put $5 worth of florals in here, maybe, because I'm just taking parts of it. And I just put a lot of greenery in there, a few fall colors in there for our little fall vignette. And I will probably sell this for about $15 to $18 when I get done with it. So, and not a whole lot of work involved here. So here it is. know why that's blurry, but it is a little blurry, but there it is. I think it turned out beautiful. There it is, nice and close up. And then now you can see that glaze that I put in there. It makes a difference. You could have used a dark wax for that. And if you're going to ask me about the Raven, guys, I bought that wholesale, okay? Anyway, that is it, guys. That's everything. And thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate your tuning in. And welcome to all you new subscribers. I definitely should have said that earlier, but anyway, I will see you next time. And I am trying to do my videos now twice a week on Mondays and Fridays. So we will see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.